Yay Networks.
Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti, and I can't wait for you to hear all of the Great Girlfriend magic on today's show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and your paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy! Happy Wednesday, Great Girlfriends! Happy Wednesday! And happy summer! How amazing is it to finally be in what is, I think this is my absolute favorite season of the year, not just because I live in California, but because summer just does it all for me. I feel like everyone's happier in summer.
Oh, we are.
Yeah. Definitely. Like everyone's like fully happy and satisfied. I love that. So I hope you're kicking off your summer in an amazing way. We want to see all the pictures. We want to hear, get all the DMs and see all your posts, and make sure you're tagging us at the Great Girlfriends. And while you're journeying in your trips, wherever you may be, near or far, I felt like I should bring to you a wonderful guest who is here today to talk about how we get to know ourselves better. And that's like I feel like for us as women, that's a spiritual, mental, emotional, physical experience, right? In order for us to have an oasis in our being, we do need to get to know our bodies and what ways that we can be more intentional around loving and showing up for ourselves. So, in true Sybil form, I have an expert. A beautiful, wonderful, marvelous expert who I've followed for a very long time on Instagram. And as I was thinking about this topic and this conversation came up with a great girlfriend, it's like she just started dancing across my mind. She was just doing like a little, there it is, like a, hey, don't forget to call me up. And so I thought it'd be wonderful to slide into her DMs and say hello and find out if you would be willing to come and share your expertise. So I want to welcome today Nurse Alice Benjamin. Welcome, Nurse Alice.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And thank you for sliding in my DMs.
Listen, listen, when appropriate, I'm like, hey, I don't know if you know anything about my show, but I would love to have you on, because what you do, Nurse Alice, is very intentional and organic. Two things that I think are important when you're a thought leader and you're sharing your expertise and you really want it to resonate is you give quality advice from the medical background, but it has so much of your emotional and spiritual intention.
Yes.
It seeps through. It really resonates. And so I do want to give a little bit of your bio, if that's okay with you. Some people go, no, don't read it, but I really do want to share how important you are in the work that you're doing. So Nurse Alice Benjamin, officially known as America's favorite nurse, is a board-certified family nurse practitioner, author, speaker, podcast host, and is the culture's #1 trusted voice for health and wellness information. Okay, not number 5, number 4, number 3. She's #1. All right, just thought I'd throw that out there. Nurse Alice has extensive experience specializing in cardiovascular health, critical care, and emergency medicine, and has worked at some of the most underserved community hospitals, taking care of some of the sickest patients on the planet. Nurse Alice is a medical correspondent for NBC4 Los Angeles and was the nation's most watched nurse on TV, who kept millions of viewers up to date with her meticulous and insightful daily reporting during the COVID crisis. Thank you so much. Thank you. Spanning her career, Nurse Alice has appeared on numerous national shows, networks, and radio shows, including GMA3, Dr. Oz, The Doctor, CNN, HLN, Fox News, News Nation, TV1, BBC, KTLA Morning News, The D.L. Hughley Show, and Ricky Smiley Morning Radio Show. She also hosts the Ask Nurse Alice podcast. So we need to talk about how you're staying hydrated and healthy and available to do all the great work that you're doing.
You know, I've been a nurse practitioner for quite some time now, and I love what I do. And I have this mantra: I want to talk to people before they become my patients. And you know, I have this personal story of, you know, the why did you go into nursing type of thing, and it actually stems from my father. My father, retired service member. But in the Navy back then, the only way you got a break is if you smoked. Like smoking if you got them. That's what they would say. So he picked up the habit of smoking.
Wow. And
as most people should know by now, smoking can lead to heart disease, heart attack, stroke, and all these things. And so he experienced all those. And although, you know, it's kind of interesting because I didn't realize we were poor at the time, but I guess we were kind of like rich poor. Okay. But we lived in the good part of the hood. And so, you know, we went to our community hospital and things like that. But hindsight, I learned that the providers there were very inattentive. They didn't have that community outreach. If they had compassion, they didn't show it all the time. They didn't do a great job of educating. And so ultimately, my dad died in the emergency room from a massive heart attack. And I can just remember vaguely like the scuffling in the background. Like I felt like, y'all know what y'all doing back there? Like I wasn't a healthcare provider then, but because of that experience, I had decided that, you know what, I'm going to be the best cardiac nurse in the world, and I'm going to help others in the community be empowered to know more about their health, do more about their health, so they don't find themselves in this position where, you know, your dad died of a massive heart attack, but it's because he did this, and this.
Yeah.
But you didn't explain to us the significance of that. We didn't know that we needed to do this screening or that this lifestyle behavior, which seems just like, oh, that's not going to make a difference. It makes a big difference.
A huge difference.
There was like a lack of education. So I decided that I would take that upon myself and like just share it with the world. Anything or everything I could do to help someone make even just one healthier choice. And so that's how I was able to do all this podcast and news stations and all stuff. Anybody who'll listen, I want you to stay healthy and stay out of the hospital.
I love that so much. Our last guest, Jamel Hill, talked about how your experiences do prepare you. And though we may not understand in the moment what it's equipping us to do or become, we then understand retrospectively that, you know, it literally fueled you and activated this side of you that has now become, you're a vessel and a voice for this type of transformative health care for not just not just for a specific person, but for humans worldwide.
Yes. And if I can say this, he died in the ER. So that was an area that I never wanted to work in. But then through my travels, because I can't, focus on cardiovascular, then I started working in critical care. And then I realized that, during my journey, like, let me try different areas. But I found my way back into the emergency room. So the same inattentive providers, now I am that provider that has the potential to change the trajectory of everyone's outcome. We're not letting anybody die in the hallways. We're going to listen to everyone, regardless what walk of life they're from, what they look like, how much money they have, whatever insurance they have. And everyone that leaves, I'm making a point to make sure that I've tried my best to connect them with some community service or a provider. So, because an ER visit is just like a Band-Aid. It's not going to, change everything. But I'm hopeful that with my influence on the staff that works there and under my leadership when I'm there, that the staff go the extra step to help really, really help the people in the community.
That's so good. That is so good. That type of care, I think, like you said, it starts with us making choices at home, right? It's like it starts with your knowing and being aware of the individual choices, the micro choices we're making on a day-to-day basis that affect our macro results.
Yes.
Whether or not it's smoking or eating sugars and, all the bad choices, but they're also good choices. And as we get to know ourselves as women, I think it's so important that we understand our bodies and we understand how to create an oasis, right? Where health can dwell, where sickness is not welcome, or where we know how to respond to these things with love, where we're kind to our bodies, where our well-being is prioritized. And I know that, our country is in a mental health crisis. Yes. Right. So there's a lot of war happening in our internal beings. Right. And then I also understand that attached to that is food choices that are not optimal. So then other habits such as drinking and such as, smoking, not just cigarettes, but drugs and alcohol, things that are attached to, bouts of depression or those low experiences. I want you to help us understand, because I also consider you a self-care advocate.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, good.
So.
I'm like, I gave you that title on the side, but
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I also consider you the self-care advocate. And as we get to know our bodies, what is it that we need to cultivate so that we can have this oasis, so that self-care is prioritized, from a medical perspective, but also emotionally and spiritually?
So I first want to say that self-care is essential.
Yeah.
It's essential to living and having the life that you want.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, then who will?
Or will there be a self?
Right. There won't even
be a self, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So, when it comes to self-care, I think one of the most important things that people need to do is first take inventory. So when we talk about knowing ourselves, knowing our bodies, we really have to do inventory.
Okay.
We have to know our body. So first off, I always, I for myself, let me also say this, because there's this false dichotomy. Although I'm a healthcare provider, I'm also a consumer of health. I'm a person just like everyone else. So I experience
valuable.
everything. So I'm saying this as a provider, but also as a woman.
Yeah.
I need to know my body as well. And I have some of the same challenges as other people, but what I tell people is first, get naked, get in the mirror, and just like really look at yourself. Because you really should appreciate and love yourself. And the only way to really do that is to know yourself. So it's important to know, what is normal for me? What do I look like? I mean, I know we're all fascinated by Instagram and looking at everybody's feed and, all of these things. And we got the filters. But we need to be unfiltered in our mirror and just take a look at ourselves like, oh, I have a mole there. Oh, whatever the case might be. Oh, my nails look like this. But take inventory of what you look like. Don't be afraid to touch yourself.
Yeah.
One of the things that I hear a lot, women don't like to do self-breast exams. They don't. And honestly, much of the lumps and bumps that people will come into the hospital or to the ER with is, my partner found this lump in my breast. Because the partner was
touching.
But we need to know ourselves. So start with, knowing your body, what's normal for you. And even looking down there. I'm saying down there, but y'all know what I mean when I say down there. What does it look like? What's normal? What are my scents? Am I having discharge? Is this normal? What's my period? You don't know how many women don't know when their periods are going to come.
Because they haven't taken inventory.
They haven't taken inventory. I'll say, how often does your period come? Every 28 days, 30 days? Oh, I don't know, but it's every month. But it could be 26 days, it could be 30 days, 40 days. I don't, how am I, the provider, supposed to know? You should come with some information. But outside of knowing yourself, then obviously, seeing your healthcare provider, getting a baseline physical assessment, getting some, custom or some standard laboratory tests. We want to know if you're diabetic, high cholesterol, those type of things. Getting important screenings, especially at certain intervals and milestones. Like, for example, a woman's first pap smear generally is at the age of 21. We generally do breast cancer screening by the age of 40. We do colon cancer screening by the age of 45. So there are these milestones that your provider should help you with. And then, things like if you're having a particular issue, make sure that you're seeing that specialist. If you wear glasses or have problems with visions, you should see your ophthalmologist. If you're, for your annual well woman's check, go see your OBGYN. If you're having a foot issue, go see the podiatrist, go see the specialist. But then when it comes to the specialist, I also want to encourage people, there's this whole psychological health part too that, and we've been talking about, mentioned mental health. It's okay to see a therapist. It is so okay. Just like you would go for your annual wellness visit. Many people don't go to see a therapist until there's a problem. And I think that if they went more often, how are you feeling? How are you managing this? How are you responding to this? They could catch themselves before they hit the crisis. So, getting that inventory on your psychological health, which, by the way, I will say is broken down to your mental health and your emotional health. And I know we kind of lump it all together and just say mental health, but your mental health really is your ability to think logically, make good decisions, be rooted in reality. And the emotions would be more of those feelings like sadness, anger. How are you managing those, and are you managing them well? So collectively, they all kind of work together, because what you feel and what you think, which is kind of that psychological health, is going to impact your actions and your behavior, which gets into your physical health. Because, when people aren't happy, they're having uncontrolled anger, sadness, they may overeat, they may undereat, they may indulge in smoking or alcohol or, those type of substances that are unhealthy. So it's really important for us to take an inventory and look at our physical as well as our psychological health.
Okay. So I can hear some great girlfriends saying, that's a lot of work.
Aren't you worth it though?
Oh, yes. I love that. Aren't you worth it? And that's the thing that I think we have to stick with and align with, is that we are worth the investment. And the investment is going to, and a preventative investment, a proactive investment helps us to take more control of the outcomes that come along the way. I've learned so much about preventing cancer through some of the episodes that we've been able to do on the show, and meeting with practitioners and learning about early detection of certain diseases that literally can save lives, diseases that are prevalent in Black and brown communities. And that comes from taking inventory and understanding the worth. I think we miss it with the worth piece. That big piece right there.
Yes, you are so worth it. And I'll say this, it may seem kind of laborious. Oh, I got to make an appointment. I got to, drive across town to go do this or do that. But just imagine that one wellness visit, you can catch something so early on. Whereas if you wait until something's bothering you, then by that time, oh, well, that's already stage 3, 4 cancer. Now you're going to chemo and radiation and having surgery.
Right.
Where if you had just been like, I feel this little knot here in my breast. What is this? Let me go get it checked out. Right. You could have saved yourself so much time, money, effort, your family also, because when we talk about our self-care and our health, you have to realize that although it is about you, it's not just about you, because many of us we're sisters, we're brothers, we're aunts, we're uncles. We have what we do impacts the lives of others.
Yeah.
And I'm a mom. I have to be here for my sons. I really do. And then my future husband, which by the way, if you watching,
come on, call her. DM.
Listen. Ask,
we want to know. We want to know if you're out there. That's right.
But what the decisions that I make about my health and my well-being definitely have a trickle-down effect into the other. Even the dog, y'all. Even the dog. If you're too sick and can't get out of bed, how's the dog going to eat? Who's going to take the dog for a walk?
Take care of the dog. Exactly. But you know what? Okay, so let's go root cause here. Self-care to me equals self-love. And lack of self-care equals lack of self-love. Right? Do you find that there's that correlation? Right? When you know you're worth it, you make the investments because you're preparing your body to be this loving dwelling. I keep seeing myself 95 running on the beach. I've been talking about this for 7 years on the podcast, right? So I'm getting closer to 95, which is okay with me. But I know that I've got to prepare her to be 95 running on the beach.
Right.
Today.
You do.
Today is the day. Like I can't lack love for her now and expect for her to want to show up at 95 prepared to live the life that I want to see her live. So the correlation of self-care equals self-love, lack of self-care equals lack of self-love. How do we begin to cultivate love in a way? What is the healing space? What are the healing, what are healing things we need to do to heal in an effort to cultivate self-love?
I think that is such a great question. And to frame it that way, because when you don't take care of yourself, that would be a challenging question. So you don't love yourself?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I feel offended a little bit. We say we love ourselves, but where's the action behind that? Right? Like if someone says that they love you, you're like, well, but they don't call back. They don't come home. I'm fine.
There's no proof of it.
There's no proof.
Yeah.
We need to put the proof in the pudding. So when it comes to self-love, I will say this. A lot of times, unfortunately, the revelation that we need to focus on our self-love comes after an injury or an insult.
That's facts.
It is. And I hate that has to be that way.
True. Yeah.
It is. There is something that happens that negatively impacts our life, something that's painful. And I'll say either you, a breakup. Let's say a breakup. Because I hear the term self-love a lot when it comes to relationships.
Absolutely.
I was in a toxic relationship. Now I need to do self-love. And it's interesting because there is actually what we call psychogenic pain. So let's say you fall and you break your arm. Oh, it hurts, right? It physically hurts. When your heart's broken, you'll feel hurt. It'll actually manifest physically, and that'll be the attention grabber. But really, it's a mental or an emotional insult that's manifesting physically, which can, again, negatively impact your health. So when it comes to taking care of yourself, you really have to get to self-love. Do I truly love myself as I am authentically?
Yeah.
Do I love myself the way that I am now? And I'm going to, some of y'all might not like this, but some of us don't love ourselves the way that we are.
Yep, absolutely.
And
Facts.
I hate that it's like that, but we need to address the elephant in the room, because we can have all this beautiful foo-foo talk about self-love and it's all cutesy, but really some people don't like their station in life. They don't like that, they have some extra pounds. They don't like what they look like. And those negative thoughts, what we think and what we believe, truly do impact your actions and behaviors, which can lead to, again, like I said earlier, like physical manifestations of illness and disease. So we need to get back to self-love and identify what are those things that I don't like about myself and why.
Yeah.
Why don't I like them?
Yeah.
What are they, and what can you change about that so you do love yourself? Because I want y'all to be the healthiest, most fit, mentally, physically self that you could possibly be, so you can live your best life. Because a lot of people say they live their best lives, but behind closed doors, they're really unhappy and they're struggling with self-love.
Yeah.
And gosh,
well, that's so true. When you say that, I think about all the times that I'll go first that I have withheld love when I didn't measure up to my own standard, and I punished myself in some way. And I may have thought that I was giving myself a comfort by eating a certain food, but actually I'm punishing my body if I'm putting dairy in there and I have a low lactose tolerance, or I'm drinking, a drink that I know is detrimental to my body or high in sugar. That's punishment to me. But in my mind, if I tell myself that comfort is good for me, I feel like I'm punishing. So I'm saying that to say there have been times where I personally punished myself or told myself that I didn't do as good as I should have, and that I got to work harder and I go move harder, go harder, try harder, stay up later, be stronger, be greater, instead of being satisfied. And it took a lot of growing up to be able to go, it's okay. It's okay. That was not the moment, but a new moment will come, and you're qualified for the new moment. Maybe you didn't do your best in that last moment, but don't crucify yourself.
Exactly.
And so anytime we're in a space where we are withholding love and exchanging it for, rejection or criticism, harsh criticism, self-awareness versus criticism, right? Like those are different. I think we need to stop and evaluate, like, where have I been withholding love from myself? Where have I put love on the shelf and been punishing or put myself in a holding pattern and never fully released,
Right. And I think that society today, we're all hustling, we're all on the grind, right? And we're in such a rush to get somewhere without appreciating where we are.
I'm like, what's that final destination? Because let me say, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I'm like, where are people going? Where how will they know when they've gotten there? I don't know, but I do see and feel and experience it. And when I'm in certain spaces, I feel the pressure of the rush, right?
They're looking for that. It's destination happiness. Oh, I'll be happy once I do this. Mm-hmm. But then once you do this, then the target is moved, and then you're looking to do something else. And you stay busy, you stay on this hamster wheel, and you're so busy doing other things and, quote unquote, being productive. But how can you be productive if you're not taking care of your vessel? You can't sail a ship that has a hole in it.
Oh,
you can't. You're going to sink. And in all your hustle and all your grind, your feet going to start to get wet because that water's going to come in that boat. You're like, wait a minute. Why am I slowing down? Why can't I? And that's the thing. Trying to be so productive and ignoring what your body needs, it will cause you to actually slow down. Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever tried to run a race, like you running, but at some point you're like, I'm trying hard, but I'm going slow.
Nothing's happening.
I'm slowing down. And that's what your body's like, not today.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
And it will check you out before you check yourself out. And so that I see that a lot in the emergency room. And unfortunately, especially during the pandemic, I saw so much death. I was surrounded by so much illness. It really impacted me. And I'm just like, it made me like reevaluate what's a priority in my life. Yeah. And how do I take the best care of myself so I can really be fit, like on the beach, like you said, 95 running on the beach.
95
on the beach running with my family and just be healthy. Because I think it's not about longevity of life. It's also quality of life.
That's right. Quality.
It is.
Yeah.
And you don't appreciate that. Let's say you never appreciate a good thing till it's gone.
Facts.
I have so many people, unfortunately on their deathbed that says, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. And as a provider, and I'm hearing these things like left and right, I'm like, ooh, I better go do this and I better go do that and just really be thankful. Yeah. We have to have gratitude and be thankful. And I think that gets back to kind of the self-love. Yeah. The self-love and the self-care. And I know some people are like, well, that's a far stretch, Nurse Alice. How does high blood pressure and self-love, what do they got to do with each other? Well,
a lot, right?
Right. So, because when you are angry, upset, just not happy, your body releases a lot of cortisol, causes inflammation, causes your blood sugar to go up, causes your blood pressure to go up. It causes problems for your kidneys, for your eyes, circulation. And we don't see this. That's why it's out of sight, out of mind. But really, when you are in an unhappy place where maybe you're bitter, you're upset, you're jealous, you're envious of something, that actually releases chemicals in our body that impact us physically. That's why your mental and emotional health is so important, because it truly does have an impact on your physical. Now, it might not be right away like, oh, I'm angry, boom, I'm passed out dead. Not like that per se, but over the years, it will catch up with you.
What about fear? Does fear have that same?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's like in anxiety. Do the two, are they married or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of people come into the emergency room. They're like, I got chest pain. I have these headaches. They're sweating. They're pale. They're diaphoretic. And we do the whole heart attack workup, and then nothing. And then when you get to digging deeper about what's going on, well, I lost my job. My girlfriend left me. And you're like, okay, how have you been managing that? Well, I haven't. I've just been trying to, just get through the day. And they've not taken the time to sit in what they feel, to acknowledge it, nor take the steps to get help. And that can, so a lot of people, you've heard the term broken heart syndrome, right?
Yeah.
So that actually can present like a heart attack.
Wow.
And it actually makes changes in your body, in your heart, similar to a heart attack.
Wow.
And can literally give you a heart attack if you allow it to go unchecked.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
So environmental stressors, because we are post 2020, right? And we all know the treacherous time that we lived through, but the environmental stressors were so real. And I feel like so many families were affected because they were contained and they were typically not in the same environment. And consequently, lots of people found themselves divorced after, right? Lots of kids found themselves stressed. Lots of people found themselves stressed because of the amount of proximity they were spending. It was just an environmental stressor for them. Their homes, where homes should be one thing, home was another thing. And even now in recovery, as people, as we have transitioned fully back into society and we're traveling, we're doing all the things, I do still feel that people are dealing with environmental stress of maybe even if they're in their own city or the crime in their area or the pressures of their environment, whatever they may be. Have you seen any of the effects literally because you are living in a certain space or you're living under certain pressures that your body is experiencing this type of pushback? Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, there are several things in the environment that influence our health. And so like even during the pandemic, when home was home, it was school, it was employment,
right?
It was everything. It was the vacation, the stress of having to. First off, that was an era where everyone was afraid. We were afraid. We were confused. We didn't know what was going on. Do I get the vaccine? Do I not get the vaccine? Oh my gosh, there's a side effect. I know so and so who died. Like there was just the stress levels were on high. Like the fight or flight was on high, and so that released a lot of cortisol. And then you have to also take into consideration what was everyone's mental health and emotional health like, because it's actually healthy to be separated for a while, like from your family, from your peers for a while, so you can, there's not this kind of built up continuous exposure to sometimes what can be nauseous stimuli. I'm just saying, because my kids are all over the place sometimes. I need them to go to school.
Right?
You
like, go have a great day.
Yes.
So I can reset.
Right.
I don't want to have to show up all the time.
Exactly. And then we had several families who couldn't social distance because they didn't live in a large enough home. And so there was those type of things. But when I think of environments and their health, sometimes it's the people that you're around the most that can negatively or positively impact you,
right?
Because you pick up a lot of their behaviors, their attitudes, their beliefs. If they're having a bad day and they take it out on you, then all of a sudden you're having a bad day. So there's a lot to be said about your environment and also what you have access to. Do I have access to fresh, healthy fruits and vegetables? I know if I don't prepare my lunch for work, it's a wrap. Because all that's around me is fast food, and vending machines. I'm not going to eat healthy that day. So when I look at those environmental factors, and then other things like some of us, depending on where we work, I mean, I'm in the hospital. There's a lot of disease that I'm exposed to. Those things can impact my health. Perhaps you work somewhere where there's lots of chemicals. Those things can impact your health. Like, there's so many things. Literally everything around you. I'm sure something in this room that can impact our health. Even the pollution outside in the air that we breathe impacts our health, which is why, again, it's so important to focus on your health, because as a provider, I can't tell you which one of those elements is going to be the one that's going to take you out, right? We know studies show this and studies show that, but really everyone is different. Like my genetic makeup is different. I might be more resilient when it comes to exposure to a certain chemical versus you, or those type of things. So that is a really hard question to ask when we talk about environment. But one thing we do know for sure is that the environment, whether it's the actual physical environment that you're in or the people that are around you, even the things you listen to and the things you hear. Like, that's why I don't like this. I don't want to diss nobody's music for this, the mumble rap, but sometimes the negative messages. And that's why I always tell my kids, we're not listening to that. But, even negative messages can impact your health. It actually trains your thought process. And one thing, and I'll use it like depression, for example. Once someone is depressed, their brain becomes wired to easily go there whenever there's any type of disappointment. So even if you've experienced depression and you've done therapy, you've done, activities and exercises and to put yourself in a better space, the minute something goes left, it's so easy for you to become, manifest the symptoms of depression again, because your brain is already wired to do it.
These are things that we don't know, but that understanding is so important, because when we see these things, we can understand the triggers are there and how they're affecting us. And we can respond accordingly when we recognize it. I think you've given me, because it's all about
it's
me,
all
right?
about you. Sure.
You've given me and you've given us so much to think about, because we understand that you can't fight it all at once, right? You can't fight all the external factors at once. And I personally don't want to be a woman who is constantly at war with the world around me and putting up all these barriers. But I do want to make sure that I'm arming my body with all the positive things that I can do to reinforce love, to reinforce care, to reinforce hope, to reinforce, good quality beliefs, and to overpower negative thinking, and to create just the space where my cells can regenerate in a healthy way. And I have the right amount of oxygen because I'm deep breathing and I'm cutting out all and just learning to be more affectionate in my being. And it's so interesting because you're a mom as well. So, and when you're carrying a baby, oh my goodness, how much love do you pour into your body? Because you're like, there's a baby in there.
I know.
I want to love this baby. I want to give this baby a fair chance to come into the world with so much joy and positivity and all those things. But there's always a baby in there. We're in there, so there's always room.
We are the baby.
We are the baby.
We are the baby.
But and it wasn't until that process that I really realized, look at how much love you can, the extra mile you're going to protect these babies. But your body needs, literally after pregnancies, I feel like your body needs the extra mile anyway. I'm still recovering. I have a 14 and 11-year-old. I'm still recovering from carrying 2 kids. I do feel like we learn to take the extra mile, go the extra mile. But I think now what's so good about this generation and what social media is doing is promoting the idea that self-care is essential.
I love that part. I do love that part.
And now
it's in vogue. It's in style to talk about, your mental health, your emotions, boundaries, and triggers. And I know, I'm going to say this. I think the word trauma has been commercialized a little too much. I mean, it's something that's serious and we do have to deal with. But, I'm glad that we're now able to have these conversations. Because when I was growing up, we just want to talk about that. We just... Don't talk about your business outside this house. Don't nobody else need to know, right? So now we're giving people permission. And we're making it okay. We're destigmatizing the conversation around, talking about how you feel and that it's okay to not be okay. And, to share your feelings, to go see a therapist. And I have to say, for anyone who's listening who has not been to a therapist, I would so recommend it.
Yeah.
Because what you think, and again, how you feel, can impact your health so much, right? We talked about like the fight or flight, the cortisol, the hormones and stuff like that, but just your perception. So whenever a dilemma or something does come up, how are you looking at it? Is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? Because that's going to perpetuate the cycle and intensity of what you're thinking and feeling. So if you can, for example, if someone, they have high blood pressure, now they have to take a blood pressure medication. I know some people who would just go off the deep end, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a heart attack. It's like, it's the end of the world versus, say, you know what, my blood pressure's high, I had to start this medication, but I'm gonna work on these other things and it's gonna be okay. I know, and like just have that mindset. Mindset is so key when it comes to kicking off your self-care, your self-love journey, and just how receptive you are to the things that present themselves, because there's always going to be an obstacle. There's always going to be a challenge every day. But are you going to get, are you going to have this pessimistic attitude? Are you going to be, fighting, going against the grain, fighting it? I don't want to fight.
Yeah.
I just want to be, I want to live, I want to love, I want to enjoy stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to take the path of least resistance. And I think this is where therapy comes in, because you learn what heals not to die on. Like,
that's so true.
Oh, you said, if you would have caught me a couple years ago, like if someone said something, I would have had something quick back to say. But sometimes I'm like, oh, that's how you feel? Okay.
You can live with that feeling. I don't have to respond to that.
Exactly.
But the good thing about therapy too is when you look, therapy will help you to look at the history of how you've responded to things, right? Yeah. And things that
and
are
uncover
patterned.
some stuff too.
Yep. Yeah. And it's like so many things that you've patterned that may have worked for a parent or may have worked in circumstances that no longer fit what you want to. Like if you're cultivating peace, if you're cultivating love, those things may not work, and therapy will help you to unfold what will work. Like, what are some of the differences with different choices you can make today that will support where you're going today versus the response to what was taking place in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll just share, in therapy, one of the things that I learned about myself is that I would sometimes self-sabotage things that I wanted to do. So I love being a healthcare provider, but I also like talking to people before they become my patients. So I enjoy doing media, but there, at a certain point, there's like a crossroad. Like I can't do both of those things full time.
Yeah.
I have to do one more than the other. But I felt like this pressure or responsibility from certain people to do certain things. So I was like, gosh, I got to do this to make them happy. And, and so I had to release that. I had to release that and say, Alice, what makes you happy?
Yeah.
What makes you happy? And to walk that path and to follow that. Because when you do something that you really love and enjoy, you're like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the day. Like time just flew.
Yeah.
Versus doing something and it's like, oh my God, it's only been an hour.
Right.
What's going on?
I got 7 more days to go. Yeah.
Exactly. And
oh my goodness.
So don't self-sabotage yourself. And I think I want to give people permission. I hate to say that, but it's okay. I'll say that. It's okay to, not, like, let's say you're doing something and it's not really what you want to do, but you have to do it. It's okay, but let's look at the things that make you happy.
Right.
Because we are not on this earth long enough.
Right.
The life expectancy for a woman is 78 years. So, and what most of us work until we're 65. So what is that? 65 minus 78. How many years is that?
13 years of what's supposed to be happiness, right?
Yes, but really that should be every single day, starting now, starting to, when you first heard my voice on this podcast, like you should be living the life you want now. Now I understand we're not all millionaires, because I'm sure not, but what do you have enough? You have enough. So let's focus on the things that bring you joy and happiness, because those are the things that money can't buy.
Right.
If they could, a lot of these millionaires, you see them unhappy, you see them,
Killing
money cannot buy happiness.
Buy it. That's
No.
facts.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, Nurse Alice, I could keep you all day. Okay, tell me where everyone can keep up with you, because I know questions come up after the episodes and people want to know more about your work, but they also want to unpack some things that you said that really resonated with them. So where can they keep up with you on social media?
They can follow me. You all can follow me on anything social at Ask Nurse Alice. I just made it really simple so everybody can find me. I have a website, asknursealice.com as well. And, I love continuing conversations like this. I mean, even as we're talking about self-care and self-love, I decided that, you know what? And I don't necessarily have a whole bunch of travel buddies, but I'm like, I want to go somewhere. I want to go with a group of people who also want to focus on self-care, self-love, meditate, refresh their mind, body, and spirit. So I'd love for people to reach out to me and connect. And, again, this is one component of your healthy self-love journey, because you can't have one without the other.
That's true.
You can't really be healthy and angry, healthy and bitter. It don't go together.
I've never been both. One will prevail.
Yes, exactly.
For sure. And normally it's the negative one. Absolutely, right? Part. Normally unless you fight it with the positive one, right? So I love that. I'm so grateful. I think I'm so grateful because one, I'm grateful to have you here. I'm just grateful that you took out the time to come and reinforce things that you have said continually over the course of your years in your career. And you said repeatedly today that you like to talk to people before they become your patients, right?
Yes.
I love that because that mission is to keep people healthy, to keep people whole, to keep people on a path towards wholeness at all times, right? Before they have to go into an ER and deal, and become a patient, and protecting people from having to fight things that we really can prevent with early detection of disease, with self-love, with understanding of the effects of negativity. If we know that holding fear and anxiety in our body increases release of cortisol, then we have to hold less fear and like we know how to counter things when we're aware of its effect. And so I just want to thank you for giving that to us today, and sharing so much of who you are in your journey as well. And therapy, great girlfriends, therapy is not just for an emergency. It's not just for a difficult time. It's for all times. It's like, it's part of your wellness package.
Right. And if I can say this, research has shown that people who better manage their emotions and their mental health actually experience lower incidences of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, high cholesterol, and all those things. So, I would rather go to therapy than have to have surgery or take a whole bunch of medications or have a device implanted.
Talk about it.
That's something that's definitely within our locus of control.
Yes. Oh, our locus of control. I love that so much. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Nurse Alice. Thank you, great girlfriends, for listening and watching today. Be sure to leave us an iTunes review, and just make sure you're checking in with Nurse Alice, showing her love on social media, and also joining our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends, where you can commune more over the podcast topics and get to know more great girlfriends. Have a wonderful Wednesday evening. We love you. Peace. All right, great girlfriends. Did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast and the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group at The Great Girlfriends. Follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_great GFS. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.
Yay Networks.